Let me hit you with this. What if one of the most iconic partnerships in motorcycle history almost never happened? Henry Cole, the fearless, slightly chaotic adventurer who turned motorcycle TV into a global phenomenon, and Alan Millyard, the soft-spoken garage-born genius who builds machines so outrageous they make factory superbikes look like toys. Their friendship and collaboration gave us some of the most jaw-dropping moments ever filmed on two wheels. But the way they met? It's not what you think. There was no red carpet, no dramatic unveiling, not even a handshake at a bike show. Instead, it started with a phone call, a struggling car, and a shed full of secrets. Before we open the doors to this fascinating story, smash that subscribe button like you're trying to start a 1970s Triumph in freezing rain. Trust me, you don't want to miss the twists and turns of this journey. Because to truly understand how this legendary duo came together, we have to go back to a time when both their worlds looked very, very different. Early 2000s Britain, a place where custom motorcycle culture was thriving in underground workshops, while TV networks were scrambling to create authentic content that actually felt real. Henry Cole at the time was known, but not yet the global face of motorcycle adventure he is now. He was a bit of a wild card. A man who believed good television wasn't about polished scripts. It was about real roads, real people, and machines that didn't always behave themselves. Alan Millyard? He was living almost the opposite life. Hidden in a modest suburban shed in Berkshire, he was quietly performing acts of mechanical wizardry. This is the man who would later become famous for building a Kawasaki FIF 12 out of 2 Z1300 engines, a machine that looked like it came straight from the dreams of an adrenaline-loving mad scientist. But back then, Alan was content. No TV cameras, no contracts, just him, his tools, and an imagination that refused to play by the rules of the motorcycle industry. So, how did a low-profile engineer and a restless TV presenter get pulled into the same orbit? It started with whispers, quite literally. A mutual acquaintance, someone who floated between the custom motorcycle scene and television production circles, mentioned Alan's name to Henry. "There's this bloke in Berkshire," they said. "Makes bikes that shouldn't even exist. And he rides them on the road." Now, you have to understand Henry Cole's mindset here. He was always hunting for stories that had grit, originality, and a bit of madness. And Alan Millyard sounded like all three served on a silver platter. So Henry, rather than sending a polite letter or waiting for an introduction, went old school. He got Alan's phone number scribbled down on a scrap of paper. And knowing Henry, that scrap probably had an oil stain and a half-eaten biscuit on it. But what happened when he dialed that number? Let's just say it wasn't exactly love at first ring. Alan was in his workshop. And when I say workshop, I mean a proper British shed. Tools everywhere. Tea mug balanced on a carburetor, bits of projects scattered like a scrapyard that had fallen in love with an engineering textbook. The phone rings. He answers, probably expecting a mate asking about a borrowed spanner. Instead, he hears this fast-talking, excitable voice. "Alan, Henry Cole here. Mate, I've heard about your bikes. These things are insane. We've got to meet. We've got to get you on camera. The world needs to see this." Alan, being Alan, was cautious. He wasn't the type to jump at the chance of fame. In fact, his first thought was that this might be some sort of elaborate prank. After all, how often does a TV presenter just call you up out of nowhere? But Henry was persistent. He painted a picture of what could be, showcasing British engineering talent, bringing wild custom builds to mainstream audiences, and doing it in a way that respected the craft, not turned it into a circus act. Alan later joked he kept the phone in his oily hands for so long that it now counts as an antique tool in his shed. Still, Alan wasn't convinced, until Henry decided to show up in person. On a rainy Thursday, Henry set off to Berkshire. No camera crew, no production team, just him in a slightly dodgy car that looked like it had survived 3 wars and a kebab run. And in true Henry Cole fashion, the car broke down right outside Alan's place. So before they even exchanged proper greetings, these two men, one a TV adventurer, one an engineering introvert, were pushing a wheezing hatchback down a suburban street. Once they finally made it to the shed, Henry got his first glimpse of Millyard's creations. And here's where things get interesting. The shed wasn't huge, it wasn't spotless, but inside sat machines that shouldn't exist. And yet there they were, a V12 Kawasaki, hand-machined parts everywhere, and the faint smell of something truly extraordinary being cooked up. Henry's jaw, by all accounts, nearly dislocated. But being impressed was one thing. Convincing Alan to trust television, that would take more than compliments. The next few weeks were like a slow chess game. Henry would call, drop by, share ideas. Alan would nod politely, sip his tea, and go back to work. What was holding him back? Simple. He didn't want the TV world to turn his life's work into a gimmick. He didn't want staged drama or overproduced nonsense. And this is where Henry Cole surprised him. Instead of bringing contracts or fancy promises, he brought a willingness to get his hands dirty, literally. One afternoon, he showed up in old jeans, grabbed a spanner, and started helping Alan line up an engine mount. No cameras, no crew, just two blokes in a shed trying to stop a part from falling on their toes. That moment changed everything. It told Alan, this guy gets it. Although Alan did later say Henry put the spanner on the wrong bolt at least twice. And when they finally shook hands, they set in motion a chain of events that would redefine motorcycle television. Their first project together wasn't a massive build or £1 million production. It was a segment, a feature showcasing Alan's V12 Kawasaki and a few other incredible builds. The episode aired, and the response was electric. Viewers weren't just amazed at the bikes. They were fascinated by the dynamic between Henry and Alan. Henry's boundless energy bouncing off Alan's calm, dry wit. Comments poured in. Who is this quiet genius? Can we see more of that shed? Is Henry always that hyper, or was it the tea? The success of that episode proved something. Audiences didn't want fake drama. They wanted real passion, real machines, real people. But what happened next would take their partnership beyond television. Behind the scenes, Henry and Alan started spending more time together. Not just filming, but riding, tinkering, debating over frame gussets and carburetor setups. There were breakdowns of bikes, not friendships, roadside repairs, moments of pure chaos. Henry brought the adventure, Alan brought the method, and somehow it just worked. They began planning more ambitious builds. Some succeeded spectacularly, others, well, let's just say not every experiment leaves the shed.
Henry's ideas are 50% genius and 50% health hazard.
But then came the project that cemented their legacy. Fast forward a few years. By now, their chemistry was legendary. They decided to go all in, builds that would terrify insurance companies, excite purists, and leave the internet buzzing. One standout was their work featuring Alan's Kawasaki 512, a 2,300cc beast that made no sense on paper, but on the road, it was smoother than some production bikes. That episode didn't just get ratings, it inspired a new generation of builders. Suddenly, people realized you don't need £1 million factory to create something extraordinary. You need skill, imagination, and sometimes a mate willing to film it. And yet, despite the fame and the projects, their partnership has always stayed grounded in something far simpler. The secret isn't contracts or TV deals, it's respect. Henry respects Alan's genius, the kind that doesn't shout but roars quietly when you twist the throttle. Alan respects Henry's gift for sharing those stories with the world. Together they've built not just motorcycles, but a bridge between back garden engineering and global audiences. And here's the thing, they're still doing it, still surprising each other, still turning wrenches, drinking tea, and occasionally, yes, pushing broken vehicles down the street. So how did Henry Cole and Alan Millyard really meet? Not with a press release, not in a boardroom, but with a phone call, a stubborn car, a shed, and a shared passion that turned into something far bigger than either could have imagined. Their story is proof that some of the greatest collaborations don't start with a plan. They start with curiosity and a little chaos. If you enjoyed this journey, hit that like button, share this with someone who loves a good engineering story, and make sure to subscribe to AbTech Lab for more untold tales from the world of motorcycles and machines that shouldn't exist, but do.